So I'm very happy. I'm excited. How long? What episode is this for you?
So this will be. I have to look at my schedule. I have a schedule. Here we go. Let's bring it up. This will be episode. I'm gonna have to count them because I haven't actually got numbers next to 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13.
Awesome. 13. Lucky number 13.
Yeah,
yes.
Yeah, this will be number 13.
Yes.
So the way I work, so talking of being unschooly, the way I work is that I kind of tend to hyper focus on something. So the podcast is really my hyper focus at the moment. So I am recording. But the releasing of those recordings is actually much slower.
Yeah, no, absolutely. That's like every podcast though, because I'm on podcasts all the time. I was just on one came out like last week. So, but yeah, so that's what most of them are. Like they just do it. They record a lot of them and then they just release them.
Yeah, and then 6 months down the line, I get
yes, exactly. So I was like, whenever I ask, like, when is this going to be out? And they're like, I don't know. You know what I mean?
I forget, like, what did I talk about with that person?
Yeah, you have to go back and listen to it so you can like do an intro and stuff. Yeah.
Tell me, whose room are you sat in?
I'm in my daughter's room because it's the best light. So and also my sons are like they're all doing things and moving around and it was just like a lot of like energy happening because it's Saturday. So I said I'll come into my daughter's room and it'll be quiet, and it is quiet, and there's a lot of light. So
welcome to Unschooling Conversations. Today I am joined by Tiersa McQueen, and in this episode we are going to talk about unschooling because we haven't quite decided yet. So we're just gonna talk unschooling. My name is Heidi Steel. I am a former teacher and unschooling parent to 4 school-aged children who are happy living and learning as they go. I've been unschooling for almost 10 years. And you can find me on Facebook at Live, Play, Learn, where I provide daily support and encouragement for unschooling families. So welcome, Tiersa, to the podcast.
Thank you for having me, Heidi. I'm so happy to be here.
Would you like to introduce yourself? Let's start with that, and then we can go from there.
Sure. I'm Tiersa McQueen. I am an unschooling mom of 4 free children, living in Florida in the United States, and I am an avid tweeter. I tweet a lot at Tiersa J, so look for me there. And I also am just an advocate for unschooling. I've been doing it for like the last 6 years, homeschooling and then unschooling. So yeah, I'm always available to help give support to any unschooler or somebody who wants to, think about this as a lifestyle. I think it's awesome. And so I'm here to help.
Fabulous. So how did you move into unschooling? How did that happen for you? What was your journey?
Yeah, so we started, like I said, I have 4 children. My oldest son is 15. I have a 13-year-old daughter and 10-year-old twins. And we started when the oldest 2 were like 8 and 9. I want to say like they were about 8 and 9. And it was really already child-led. Like my son had decided that he didn't like going to school. And, a lot of boys say that. A lot of people say that. And when I was like getting advice from other parents, they were like, oh, yeah, kids just say that. They don't want to go. And I was like, well, maybe we should be listening to them. Maybe this is a thing. So he had said he didn't want to go anymore. So I just said, okay, let's try homeschooling. Let's see how this goes. So we started homeschooling, and at first it was just like school at home, regular, get the curriculum, the whole 9 yards. And then we decided it wasn't working for us. Like we had stopped going to school, but we still weren't having fun. It still wasn't enjoyable to us. It still felt very restricted. We were enjoying the benefits of homeschooling though. Like we were enjoying the benefits of like sleeping later and getting able to go to the bathroom when I want, and getting to eat when I want. but it still didn't feel like we wanted it to feel. So we organically moved into this like unschooling space where we just started to slowly let go of things. So it was like a deschooling process where we just came to it. And one day I said, what if I didn't buy curriculum? It was like the summer. Like I said, we were still like using the school calendar for some reason. Like we hadn't even let that go. And I said, I was still like looking at the next year, the next school year, what are we going to do for the next year? And I just asked them, like, what if I just didn't buy the curriculum? What if we just did what we like to do when we're not doing curriculum and we're not at the kitchen table, all the other things that we do? What if we just did that? And they were open to it. They said they were willing to give it a try. So we just didn't buy curriculum. And then I guess that's when we're full on unschoolers. Like we just and actually, you know, we always had this like open ending, like let's just give this a try. That's how we started with homeschooling too. Like let's just give this a try, but schools are still an option. And then with unschooling it was the same thing. It was like, let's just give this a try, and then we can always go back if it doesn't work, or we feel like, you know, we're not getting out of it that we want to. And we love it. Like but I'm grateful that we came to it in that slow, organic way. You know, so it was, everyone was like got on board with it. So that's where we are at, and we love unschooling. We love being self-directed, and I don't see it ever changing. I really don't, you know. But I mean, but like I said, we're open to anything that comes up if the kids. But we still would do it from an unschooling perspective. That's the whole thing. Like if the kids, my son, like I said, he's 15. He started taking classes, but we still do it from an unschooling mindset. So like there's no grades. He's actually started doing outschool. So he just takes the classes the things that he's interested in. And it's been very helpful for him to like bridge. He's 15. So he's like bridging the transition to like thinking about going into college. So it's been helpful for him to see that type of like structure in his day, and like how, and also like the technical things of how you would be in a class. But it was all self-directed. So he's very happy with the way that it's turning out. He doesn't feel like pressure to, you know, get a grade or anything like that. So yeah, it's been great. And that's why I don't think that we would ever go back to like traditional like schooling, because they just enjoy it so much, and they get to choose so many different aspects of it, and they get to be as academic as they want and not. So, you know, it's just working out really well for my family.
It's like you say that it's a mindset, isn't it? And it would
yes,
actually be quite difficult to change that mindset. So even when our children decide, you know, like to take a class, it's still from the perspective of an unschooling mindset.
Right.
It's still got that angle of, well, I'm choosing to be here, and I'm choosing how I navigate this, and which bits I, you know, and how I want to organize my time. And, you know, it's just got that element to it that's not really going to change once you've sort of walked an unschooling path for a while and you feel comfortable with that. And we were similar. We, you know, when we started out, so my children have never been to school, but even when my eldest would have been coming up to school age, we had a similar outlook. Well, let's see how this period of time goes. Let's see how this works out. It doesn't have to be like a hard and fast, right? This is what we're doing forever.
Exactly. I think it's a very schoolish mindset also to think that you have to have it all planned out first before you step into the space. Like, well, I can't do that now because how am I going to do it? Right? And I think that being an unschooler has really shown me that the how comes after the decision to do it. So, and I still struggle with this. I still want to have a lot of information up front before I, you know, go into the thing that I actually want to do. And my children are teaching me, they're showing me that, no, just go forward with what you want to do, and then learn the things that you need on the back end. As you need them, learn it. Because I think that a lot of pre-planning stops people from doing what they actually want to do, because they can see the pitfalls before they actually get into the thing that they want to do. Well, one of my examples, my son, he is taking out schools, like I said, and he's taking robotic classes, and he's he's working towards being an engineer. And just recently, he asked me for my advice of what I thought he should do more to in that vein of to the end of being an engineer. And so I very schoolishly suggested math classes that he could take, and he pushed back on me saying, well, they won't be building in those classes. So why would I take that if I want to be an engineer? So I want to build things. So I'm going to build. I don't have to take math in order to build. Like, I can build things and then I can learn the math as I go. And so I feel like that's a very unschooled, self-directed mindset, is actually just doing the thing that you want to do before you have all of the information, which is opposite of what they do in school. Like, in school, you have to have prerequisites. You need to learn this before you can learn this, before you can learn this. And you build based off like the lowest thing that you can possibly learn in that. My unschoolers, they do it the opposite way. They start with the thing that they want to do. So if they want to build something, they build it. They don't have to learn how, the math of it works. They don't need to know geometry to build this, or calculus. It's sort of like when you bake a cake, you don't need to know chemistry. Like, you don't need to know, why this cake rises. You don't need to know, what makes it hold together, or you don't need to know those things in order to make it. You make it, and then you learn about those things later. If your cake doesn't rise, well, why didn't it rise? Like, that's how we approach everything. And it's really been a blessing to my life, because when you approach things from that way, then you get more done. You take more actions, because when you're always trying to plan, you talk yourself out of things. And what we're trying to do is talk ourselves into things. Like, I want to do this, and let me figure out how to do this with what I already know. And then what I don't know, I will go and get that later. But let me first head first into what I'm trying to do. And that has been the biggest mind shift for me, that my kids are leading me in that way, because it's easy for them. It's super easy for them, because they know that they don't know all these things. They don't care. They just go straight forward. But with me, a schooled person, I feel like I need to know so much more than I do before I start. And they're showing me that's not true. I can just start. It's just not true. So that's a lot of the mind shift that's the space I'm in right now. And the way that, even though I've been doing this for, like I said, going on 6 years now, there's still things that my kids are showing me they're actually being unschooled in the moment, not having to have gone to school and then now learn it on the back end like I am. So they teach me every day how I can approach things differently. And it's awesome. It's just completely amazing way of life. I love it so much.
Yeah, we love it. I mean, it completely tips on end the educational sort of experience that we've probably had by being in school. It completely turns it the other way up, and our children come at it so naturally once they've been through that deschooling process. They just get on with it, and they just do it, and it's sort of this second nature to them. They don't have to think about how they're doing it or how they're going to achieve something. Like you say, they just sort of jump in and they jump in and do it. And the example you give of baking, my daughter, I've got 2 daughters, they love baking, and my kitchen's a bit of a free-for-all in that respect, and even the simplest thing, if I'm going to bake a cake, my go-to thing, without even thinking about it, is okay, let's look up a recipe. Let's look up a recipe. That's my go-to thing. And she's already baked half a cake by the time I flip through the book. And she's just she's got the basic knowledge of what goes in a cake, and she just
exactly
it all in a
she's I know I need flour, I know I need sugar, I know I need eggs, I know I need butter. That's how my kids are too. What do I know? How far can I take this before I need to look it up? I have another example of that, where my daughter, we were learning about she was talking about the America's the presidents. Right. It was about the impeachment, because another thing is we learn things as they become applicable to our lives. So the impeachment was going on, and she was getting interested in that, learning more about that. And she had a question about a president that hadn't been consecutive. He was the president, and then there was another president, and then he was the president again. And so I had a book on presidents, and I handed it to her. And so she looked at it for like a second. And then she said, no, went to the computer, Googled the question that she had, found the president, and then went back to the book to go exactly to the page that she needed to go to. So, the whole way of doing something, I would have sat there and looked at that book for 30 minutes before I found it, but they're so much more efficient. Like, I know what I need. Thank you for this part of it, but I'll figure it out in a much faster way if I just go look it up here and then come back to the book that you gave me so I can get more in depth after I ask Google and find out the answer to the question that I had, and then I'm going to go and delve deeper into the information that you gave me. So they're just so much more efficient and faster. And if you allow them to use the tools that they have, they just learn it so easily that you'll start learning from them.
They talk about using the tools. They use the tools like of their generation.
Mm-hmm.
Like I love books, and I have collected and bought a lot of books that would be aimed at children, for example, and I cannot part from them. I can't. They're all on our bookcases. But I guarantee you, we've probably touched one or two of them in our 10-year journey, because my children have their own resourcefulness and their own places that they go to find the answers they want to find. And that does include us, and it does include us. But even now, we use the internet more than we might be drawn to my bookcase to go and find a book. And they just they have this ability, because they haven't been told how they must be doing it elsewhere. They have this ability and this resourcefulness of their own, which they utilise, which is brilliant. So this ability of our children brings me on to this idea that unschooling is lazy.
Don't get me started, Heidi.
I know.
Yeah.
I knew it'd be a really good topic to bring up with you.
Yes.
Like, either we're being lazy as the adults by not following curriculum and forcing our children to engage with a schedule that we've preset and trying to control our children that way. Or on the flip side of that, our children are being lazy because they're not engaging in things that they find really difficult, and we're not making them do things that are hard, and it's just not true. It's
not true. First of all, I don't even believe in the concept of lazy. Like, that's not something I ascribe to. Like, I don't, for me, I've learned, this is one of the biggest parts of my deschooling, was letting go of the concept of laziness. Because I believe now that what we think of as lazy is really just a mismatch of priorities. So if I see someone and I think they should be doing something that they're not doing, that's my priority. That's not their priority. So for me to say, well, you're not doing it because you're lazy, that's just a judgment. I'm making a judgment. That's all I'm doing. I'm judging them. I'm judging them based off what they're doing versus what I think they should be doing. So I don't really believe in that. You know what I mean? It's to me, saying someone is lazy is actually lazy because you're not getting the context of their situation. They might not want to do it, which is a valid reason. That's not laziness. Saying why did you do that? I don't want to. That's valid. That's for you to then call them lazy. That's just of your own standard. That's not based off their standard. And then second of all, you don't know, they could have fear of failure. They could want to do it but be paralyzed with fear, so they didn't do it. Or they could be procrastinating because they have imposter syndrome, or you don't know. You have no idea what's going on in that person's head, so you're just judging them if you call them lazy. And even if that were true, even if their laziness was a thing, I've never worked harder than I have since my kids have unschooled. I just want everyone, for me, laziness would be to send them to school. That would be, if by that definition, that would be lazy, because I would be outsourcing this whole thing that I'm doing to someone else. I would be giving my responsibility as a parent to answer all the questions and provide all the resources and do all of the things that I do every single day to another person. How is an unschooler lazy? We're doing everything. We're doing all of it.
Yeah.
But someone who sends their child to school, that's not lazy. You're not doing any of it. You let someone else do it. So that's I don't even understand how they even come to that. Like that doesn't even make sense. Like I just think like we just sit here all day and first of all, it's impossible to do nothing. It's impossible. Like you don't know what a person is doing. If you see them sitting there playing a video game, you don't know what they're learning through that video game. You have no idea. So stop judging them. Stop judging them.
I definitely think that that's a huge issue, not just with unschoolers, just with everyone, that we like reshape like our brain around this concept of laziness, because I think that it's like something that we inherited from a long time ago that no longer really applies, and that we have so much more information that we can, cut that out. That that we can see what's the deeper issue here that a person is having that they won't start, or is it you that you want them to do something that they don't want to do, and so that you have
it's a trust issue. So it's about whether that's me looking at my children or whether that's me looking at somebody else. It's about me trusting that person is doing the right thing for them and making the right choice for them at this moment, and whatever that looks like to me, whether it looks like my child spending an afternoon watching movies and I deem that as lazy and inactive, it's about me not trusting that they are doing what they need for this moment. Do they need to rest? Are they actually actively engaged in that movie? And actually there's a lot processing that I can't see. What are they choosing to do, and why? Like you were saying, why are they choosing to do it? Is there an underlying cause that we maybe need to help them with? Are they are they stuck? Is there something they need that we can support them with and help them with, or are they just taking a break for 5 minutes? I think when you're unschooling as well, that whole cycle of like we're so used to this work cycle, like we work between the hours of 9 and 5, and then we do something that's relaxing, and then we go to sleep, but when we step into unschooling, that all gets sort of mixed up. One child is sleepy in the morning and maybe a bit more active at another time of the day, and somebody else is responding to their own physical need for rest later in the evening. It doesn't look like 9 to 5 is when we work, then we eat and then we do something relaxing, and it all gets mushed together, really.
Yes, it does.
People get more in tune with their own body.
Right, absolutely. Well, yes, they do. It's like, and it becomes a rhythm to the house. Like, and exactly what you said. Like, there's a trust. Definitely, it's about trust, but it's also about respect, and respecting that this child is, like you said, doing what's best for them, and respecting them as a person. That that not enforcing myself onto this person, because that is harmful to the relationship. So it's really like a communal type of living, more communal than, this whole, like you said, we work from this time and then we do this and then we do that. No, it's more communal in the way that you have to kind of allow the rhythm of life and what everyone else is doing. You have to respect it and try to like work with it, like go with the flow of life, instead of like mandating this is when we do this and this is when we do that, but just having this rhythm that, and just allowing things to happen. That's another thing I think that is just such a stark departure from what we're used to, is this just allowing instead of forcing.
And I think that brings to an even larger point of unschooling, in that unschooling and self-directed education is really about the relationship that parents have with their children. more so than it is an educational framework, in my opinion. It's because in order for this to be successful or work, I have to have such a deep, meaningful relationship with my children that I constantly understand that they're progressing based off the conversations that we have. Yeah, the part that people really need to understand is that unschoolers, when done well, when done the way that we know that it should be done, is just a relationship with your child, so that you're constant like touch base with them, so that you know what they need. They're telling you, and also you're making suggestions, and it's just like a constant. It's just a relationship.
Yeah. Well, you've got 4 children, and I've got 4 children, and respecting, that's different in a household where there's one child and say 2 adults or 1 adult. It takes, going back to not being lazy, it takes an enormous amount of effort, because we're not calling the shots. We're not setting a timetable that everybody has to follow. There's a lot more discussion, and there's a lot more input, because we are actively encouraging and supporting our children's voices in that space, to how we manage multiple different people and multiple different needs in our home space. But I think it's a really valuable thing to do, not only because I think we should treat our young people with that respect and have their voices valid and heard, but I think that will also in turn have a ripple effect on our communities and the way that they grow up, and in turn treat and value others. But my question was going to be, what does life look like in your house, sort of right, well, maybe not right this moment, but what does that look like? How does that outplay in your house with 4?
Well, I work outside of the home. I work 9 to 5 outside the home. My husband works outside the home as well. He works overnight. That's how we're able to make this lifestyle happen, is that about, we work different shifts. So a typical day for us is that when I get up in the morning, I don't know, around 6 or 7, some of the kids are already up. Some of them are still sleeping. It depends on the child, on what they do during the day. Like you said, like my oldest is very much into structure. He has a list of everything he wants to get done in a given day, in a given week, and he checks them off. My daughter is much more like go with the flow type person. So she learns, she picks a topic based off of like things that are happening in the world, things that are happening in her life. And she, really delves into that and researches that. That's how she spends most of her days, is just going with the flow and looking up things that she sees and finds and wanting to know about her world. And then the twins they're so much younger that they still haven't really found their thing. They're 10 years old and they're still trying to figure it out. Like, what is it that I really want to know? But they're more into play. Like they play a lot more, and that's the way that they are experiencing the world at this moment. So they go outside like every day and, go to the park, and we allow them the freedom to just say, okay, Mom, I'm going outside. And then they go and explore their world, and then they come back. They play video games a lot and watch YouTube videos. So that's how they manage it. So that's basically how it looks. It looks different for every single person. But we have like we try to really make our home a community. So like you said, we will sit there and we'll talk about it. It's an ongoing conversation, and it's always changing. It's a working thing. The relation, we just basically is just like a relation. We're having relationships with each other because we're a family. So that's what it basically looks like. We work, and the kids, they do their thing, and it's just life.
Yeah, I asked. So I asked people on the podcast what their life looks like, so that hopefully what listeners will begin to understand is that there isn't like a set pattern of what unschooling is, that actually it's just different families and different individuals like living their lives. It isn't it isn't set out in a particular way. There is no standard, this is what it looks like, but that what it actually is our children doing their thing, you know, choosing what they do, and us facilitating that, but that it also works within the community, like you're saying,
and
as a family.
It's hard to explain it to people too, because it's like, it sounds quite passive to a lot of people. Like you said, like, it sounds lazy, like sounds like we're not doing anything. But if you really thought about, like, if you examined your life, you would see how much you are actually doing. Like, all of the conversations that have to happen, all of the, you know, just the things that have to get done, all the resources that have to be bought, all of the things that have to get done so that you live a life. All of those things are unschooling. So when you add that all up, it's everything. It's all of the things. So what may look lazy to someone else, it's like, what are you talking about? Like, it's just all of it. All of it. It's the opposite of being lazy, because every single part of this is what it is. All of the things are unschooling. So that's why unschoolers are always like, what? Like, when you say that it's lazy, it's like so laughable, because we know that every single part of it, everything that contributes to this lifestyle, and it's a lot.
Yeah. And I think when you see that learning is everywhere, and that you see that everything that your children are doing, whether it's highly active or highly academic or relaxing, when you see that everything is contributing to them building a picture of the world, and you know, growing and developing skills, and gathering knowledge and understanding, when you can see that, it's very hard to unsee that. It's very hard to unsee that.
Yes.
When you can see that, it's not lazy.
Right.
It's exciting, actually.
It is.
That it's that straightforward, that I can choose to do what I do with my life, and at the same time, I'm learning, and I'm educating myself, and I'm growing, and it all becomes, you know, exciting.
Yes, you're absolutely right. And also, you just like what you said, I love that, because it also opens the world up. Like, you can see it for everything, not just for like an educational approach, but also you start to imagine yourself doing everything differently. Like, why do I have to work like this? Why, you know what I mean? Like, why can I just do it like this? Or everything starts to feel possible once you get on the other side of it, and you understand that, oh, this works. Oh, okay. Well, what about this? Does this work? You know, it makes your brain expand in a way that you kind of have to do it in order to know how much more you will see. Like, you just see it all. It's kind of like the Matrix, when you see the Matrix and he finally sees, it's like that. It's like, oh, okay, I see it now, you know? And so, yeah, I totally agree with what you just said. It's very inspiring.
One of the things I love seeing, especially as my children grow older, and we've been doing this more and more, and one of the things I love seeing is that my children are loving their lives, and they love what they do, and I don't need to divert their attention to something else that I think is more important, or that I think is going to be more successful, let's say, you know, or help them to achieve something. They're loving what they're doing, and they're growing and learning all the time. And I want to say it's so easy, which again makes people think that I'm being lazy, but I'm not being lazy. It's just, it comes so naturally. It's really organic, and it's just an amazing thing to watch, and it's an amazing, it's almost like a gift for our children to be able to be able to do that. Yeah, I love it.
Yes, no, absolutely. And I totally get what you say. It's easy as like it's easy to, being yourself in this world isn't easy. So when you figure out how to be yourself, you realize how much easier it is than pretending to be someone you're not, or, you know, so that's, in that way, I completely understand what you're saying, that it's like you're just living. It's just, and it's very difficult to try to, like, for people who aren't doing, to understand that it's just life. We live and we learn, and everything is self-directed. It's so different than how it is in general how most people live their lives that it feels foreign to them. It felt foreign to me. That's what I'm saying. It's like you have to get on the other side of it so that you can understand, like, oh no, it is easy, but at the same time, it's everything. So it's not easy. It's not an easy choice to make. It's not an easy, like you said, you have articles that come out and people naysayers. So it's not easy in that way, but it is an easier lifestyle. It's like going with the flow. It's easy like a river. It's just easy, and it makes me feel like I'm going to live longer, actually, and like because I have less stress in my life now, and with even with like the COVID and pandemic happening, and all these parents are like stressing out about how we're going to do this and the virtual learning, and then they're more stressed out now. And I'm like, if you would just let that go, you would not have the stress. It's like you were saying before, it all comes back to your mind shift. You have to shift your mind. This should be less stressful for you. The fact that it's more stressful, you need to like just let it go a little bit and relax a little bit. I don't want people to stress themselves out because stress is a killer. Like it's a killer. So yeah, it's a much easier way of life, and go with the flow. I love it. I absolutely love it.
I think you have to get to you have to go through that transition. You have to go through the deschooling. You have to let's just, like you were saying with your own journey, like let's just alter this one thing. Let's just try this. And you sort of walk into it, and then there comes a moment where you think, we're doing it. This is we're doing it, and there does have to be that transition, and that transition can be painful and tricky and hard work and challenging and all those things, but it's really worth it. And I probably ought to mention, whilst I'm mentioning transition and deschooling, that personally I don't think that those things that trigger us, and those things that we struggle with, I don't think those ever truly go away. Like some of them I think we address, but I think as we go on, new things arise that
absolutely
come to us, and we have to challenge those as well. But the further we walk into this lifestyle, the further we embrace it and live it, the more adept we get at recognizing those triggers, recognizing when those feelings are coming up again, and addressing them. So
yes, absolutely.
It's not like there's a transition period, the end, and
it's ongoing. It's definitely an ongoing thing. It's like you said, like you learn more as you get into it, and I think that for me it's been a huge shift with my children are the ones that are teaching me more, because they didn't go through the whole thing of school like I did. They picked up on it more quickly. Like it's much easier for them to just live their lives and learn, and understanding that they are learning while they're growing. So it's been turned on its head for me, because I learned so much from them now. Like the shedding of all the layers that schooling and all of the society has put on me, they're still there. I'm still trying to get rid of them, but they don't have as much unlearning to do. So I'm learning from them how to be free. It's amazing. Like, I freed them in order for them to show me how to be free. Like you said, and the more you walk on that journey and the farther you get into it, the more you have to unlearn. But it gets easier. It's easier, like, to let it go. The longer you do it, the easier it gets to accept, like, okay, that maybe you're not always right. Maybe these articles aren't always right. Maybe these books aren't always right. But what I'm living, what I'm doing, what's right in front of me, what I have to do right now, what I have to accept right now, that's the most important part. Those are the type of learnings that I get. Like, let me just deal with what I have to do right at this moment, unlearn what I have to unlearn at this moment, or learn what I need to know at this moment. And to just keep going on the journey, learning, living and learning.
I've loved this. This has been really
Me
good.
too. I love this conversation. I'm so happy, Heidi. I'm happy that you're doing this. I think this is awesome. That's why I reached out to you. I was like, you still want to do it? Because I want to do it. Like I was looking forward to speaking to you, because I always think that the perspective that you bring to the conversation is necessary and needed. And I'm so grateful for it. Like every time I see your picture pop, I'm like, oh, there's Heidi. Like it makes me happy to see you, because you have such a great perspective.
Well, you've got a handle on Twitter. You've obviously got a handle on Twitter, a physical one and a metaphor. You've got a much better handle on Twitter than I have. It's not my
but not just on Twitter, just like in the groups, like in the groups that we're in, like, you know what I mean? Like all of the conversations that we have and all the groups that we're in, I'm always grateful to see your perspective. We need more perspective from people who have always done it, who've always had, especially people who have older kids, too, that's gone through the whole thing. Yeah. Yes. So I'm grateful. I'm so happy that you're doing this. And I really enjoy this conversation as well. And I hope we get to do it again.
Yes, that will be. That's a wholehearted